Hey there, Patriots. This is True Outlaw Patriot coming at you with another one. The video that I'm putting out is basically going to be a part 2 of the video that I put out last night of Dan Bongino in front of Congress officials, okay, giving his insight about what happened back when Trump was nearly assassinated. Okay, now I did leave a link in the description. I don't know how many of you that watched the video went and watched the link, but I only put out a video that was about 50 minutes or something like that. After watching the rest, there is so much more that is said, okay, from Dan Bongino and the other two guys that are sitting beside him. Okay, it'll blow your mind on this information that's coming out. So I just saw fit that, you know what, let me do a second part to this, and I might even have to do a third part to this, okay, because the video's so long, but there's so much information that Dan Bongino puts out and the other two guys put out, and then there's something about it. If I can point it out, like I said, if I do a third video, it just depends. There's something that I caught onto that I found very, very strange, and not trying to point fingers at the witnesses like Dan Bongino and I didn't really get the guy's name that's sitting next to him, but it's just something that he said that made me think, in all honesty, that the more insight that Dan Bongino and these men put into this situation, the more it sounds like this was definitely something done from the inside. Because it just, there's no way, okay, there is no way that kid Crooks was able to pull this off by himself. Okay, there's just no way. I'm sorry. I mean, you're gonna hear some more testimony right now. Like I said, this is gonna be like a part 2 to last night. I even labeled it on the thumbnail part 2. And if I get to the point where I feel like I got to do a third one, I will definitely do like a part 3 to it, and then I'm gonna put all 3 of them on a playlist, okay, so everybody can see them and you know, and see my reaction and my thoughts on it. But you have to pay attention to what's going on, because this just sounds way deeper, like I said, than some 20-year-old kid that got up and decided one day, you know what, I'm going to go and try to assassinate, you know, President Trump, or anybody for that matter. You know what I'm saying? It like I said yesterday, it just stinks to high heaven. It doesn't make sense, and people need to be held accountable, like big time. But with that being said, and before I start, I just want to thank all my new subscribers and all my subscribers here on YouTube and on Rumble, and I want to thank everybody for watching the video last night. It's still getting a lot of views. I even got more subscribers since I put it out. So thank you very much. Welcome to the family. Welcome to the movement. To all the new subscribers, if you can help support the channel, I'll leave a link in my description to my Cash App and my merch store. Also, the super thanks are on, and I'm leaving a link in the description again to this video because it's put up by Forbes. But also, I'm leaving links in the description for my friend Josie and for Loza Alexander for their Give, Send, Go and GoFundMe campaign. If anybody can donate to their campaigns and help them, or even if you just leave words of prayer and words of encouragement for them, that'd be great. They're both battling some health issues, and with the way things are going on right now, us as American patriots, as human beings with heart, okay, we got to try to do the best we can to help each other out, okay, because regardless of who in our family or in our circle that is dealing with financial problems or like medical issues, as a whole, there is so much going on in this country, okay? And basically the powers that be on the left are trying to put a veil over our faces so that we don't see, and trying to distract us from so many things. And I'm going to put some thoughts into this because something else came out, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard on the news as of early this morning that I found out, but it seems like it started last night, but now it's like it's gaining a lot of traction from what I hear throughout today. It's been gaining a lot of traction, but I'll get to that in a little bit, I should say. But without further ado, this is going to be another round of questions that's going to be asked. The last video, it was ended with Matt Gaetz asking questions to Dan Bongino. So now this gentleman right here, I can't remember his name, he's going to start asking questions. And when Chip Roy starts asking questions, that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to take up too much time. That if I can get to the part where Chip Roy starts asking questions, anybody knows him, he's a senator, I think, or congressman, yeah, from Texas. You have to hear Dan Bongino's responses, but we'll get to that later. I mean, let's listen to the way this goes right now. So without further ado, here we go.
Mr. Gaetz, with that, I just want to go first to you, Mr. Prince. You said you roughly have about 3,500 at the peak of Blackwater, correct?
That's right.
Secret Service currently has approximately 7,000, approximately. What was your highest annual revenue, if you don't mind me asking, give or take, for that many operations?
Ooh, for that, the protective mission was about 2,500 to 2,800, and that revenue would have been around $600 million.
So $600 million for that.
Again, that's deploying in a war zone where 41 of our men, my men, were killed
So
in
safe to
action.
say, if you had $3.3 billion allocated to you, you could have done some even more miraculous things with resources and assets, correct?
I'll give a simple comparison. Around 2005, George W. Bush wanted to grow the size of the Border Patrol. I remember being called to a congressional hearing then because they compared what it would cost us to train a new CBP agent versus what the federal government was going to take. And our figure came in at 1/3. And their figure was actually higher than sending someone to Harvard for 4 years.
Okay, did you guys catch that? Okay, this guy right here, and I just quote his name again. His last name is Prince. He's saying that the training that they give their agents, which is way better training than anybody else can give them, would cost them, for them to do it, 1/3 of what the federal government pays to train those agents, okay? And it's all on the taxpayer dime. So right here, he is admitting that the federal government is taking hundreds of millions of dollars to train agents their way, okay? When you have guys that are more than capable to do the job and train them the right way, where they have probably no biases or anything like that, and do their job right, for 1/3 of what the federal government is doing. Now people need to look at that and say, well, wait a minute, why is the federal government paying more? Aren't they part of guys like this to do the training? That right there should tell people that there is a separation inside the department, inside the government, where they're taking, first of all, they're laundering money. Obviously, they're taking a shit ton of money from people, okay, to train agents, and then those agents are nowhere near as good, okay, as what they should be if this guy right here trains them. But it costs 3 times more if the federal government is doing it with their own people doing it. That right there should warn people that, you know what, the FBI, Secret Service, Department of Justice, Homeland Security, if all this is true, it's all been compromised because of what? Money. Whoever's in power is taking a shit ton of money, training agents, okay, that wind up being part of something that, like what happened to Trump, and it turns out to be a total damn debacle. It's insane. It's insane. I'm telling you, what Dan Bongino and these two men I had to watch this video again last night. I was up late watching it. The information that Dan Bongino and these two men put out. I've watched so many congressional hearings. Okay, these three men put out more information than the last 5 congressional hearings on any topic that I've heard. And what really kills me is that they're all set in a small room with only 4 people from Congress, okay, doing the questioning, no big media, not that many people, and it makes you wonder, why wasn't this held in Congress, in the halls of Congress, inside the main chambers, with every senator from every state sitting there listening to what these 3 men have to say? I don't give a shit. I don't give a flying rat test what anybody says. In my opinion, this was a damn inside job. But let's continue.
And that's to train a guy for 4 months. That's it. So it's the federal government blows money. Like I said in my testimony.
And my point is that the failed metric of government, whereby the more we spend, the better outcome we receive, is a flawed and failed measure, which is why we're at $36 trillion in deficit. And the reason I use that $3 billion, as you know, Mr. Prince, is because that's the actual amount that appropriators have allocated to the Secret Service, which means that, to Dan Bongino's comment, they shouldn't be utilizing past equipment to serve tomorrow. They should have more than enough assets and resources in place with a $3 billion budget. Would you not agree?
Certainly.
$3 billion budget. And they're still using old equipment. Meanwhile, they're saying that we need to allocate more money into this department, into that department, into this department, because we need more technology. Technology is growing every day. We got to make sure that we have the most high-tech technology, because, you know, some asshole in the desert in Saudi Arabia that's been living on a farm all his life, all of a sudden is a threat, and he's got better technology and better intel than what we have in the United States. It's like, really? So where is all this money going? I mean, you know, those are the questions they need to be asked. And I'm sure they're asked a lot, but nobody's getting the answers, okay? And before anybody thinks that the guy that was asking the question and was trying to cut him off so he doesn't say anything, no. I listened to it a few times. He basically didn't need to hear the long version. That's why he stepped in and said, basically, what you're saying is that where they're allocating all this money when it's not even necessary, because you guys can do the job and a better job of training, okay, for a third of what the federal government is raking in from the taxpayers. Where is all that money going? I mean, it's insane, but let's continue.
And I want to go to you, Mr. Bongino. I want to point out some things, because culture failure, as my colleagues point out and others, I want to mention a couple of things. August 14, 2024 is reported failure that a Secret Service...
Okay, now listen to what this man says. I mean, and this is stuff that you don't hear about on the news. You would think this would be all over the news, and it's not. Check this out.
To serve tomorrow, they should have more than enough assets and resources in place with a $3 billion budget. Would you not agree?
Certainly.
And I want to go to you, Mr. Bongino. I want to point out some things, because culture failure, as my colleagues point out and others, I want to mention a couple of things. August 14, 2024 is reported failure that a Secret Service agent abandoned her post without permission to breastfeed child before Donald Trump was scheduled to arrive in North Carolina. August 12, 2024, it was reported that a Secret Service special agent who was an official site agent for the July 13 Butler PA rally is under investigation for posting videos and photos for protective assignments to social media. July 27, 2024, a Secret Service agent covered the security camera of a local salon in Pittsburgh, Massachusetts before an event featuring Kamala Harris, where the salon was closed, but opened it up without approval and utilizing restrooms for an hour and a half while the building's security alarm was going off. July 2nd, 2023, it was reported that a former Secret Service Director Cheadle and senior agency leader sought to destroy the cocaine found in the White House in July of 2024. The evidence was not destroyed due to pushback in individuals in the Secret Service Forensic Service divisions. May 2024, a man enters the U.S. Secret Service Miami field office through a propped open door and was not removed from the building until the following morning. April 24, 2024, a special agent assigned to Harris's detail had a mental breakdown where the agent is reported to have physically attacked the commanding agent in charge at the base after verbal disputes with other agents. Sometime during 2023 and 2024, at least 2 people breached President Obama's Hawaii residence. Though the president wasn't there at the residence, his 2 daughters were on premise at the time. April 2023, a drunken intruder entered the home of National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan in the middle of the night. The man was able to gain access to Sullivan's home despite 24/7 Secret Service protective services in Sullivan due to the sensitive nature of his position. Now, I want to go back to a comment that you made, Mr. Bond.
Okay, now I just want to stop it there. I just counted as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different instances between 2023 and 2024 where Secret Service either failed at their job or did something wrong in the line of duty, and nobody hears about it. I mean, we heard about the one with the breastfeeding. I brought that up yesterday. I did hear about that one, okay? But the other ones I didn't hear about, especially the one about somebody trying to break into Obama's residence and his daughters were home. Nobody heard about that. I know I didn't hear about that. Okay? Now, he forgot another one that nobody talks about, and if you ask me, I mean, it's because it's hush-hush, which was the Nancy Pelosi case, where Secret Service should have been watching, okay, supposedly, they should have been watching her residence when her husband was home, and that incident happened with that guy that went in, and the cops basically caught Nancy Pelosi's husband in his underwear, where he got hit over the head with a damn hammer because some dude broke in looking for Nancy Pelosi. It's like, why is it, okay, that you're spending all this money, billions of dollars, taxpayer money, to supposedly train Secret Service that are supposed to be like the top-notch security that politicians can have, and yet there is so much, it's a damn circus when it comes to the Democrats. And then it's like all hidden from the media. It's hidden from the public. Why is that? I tell you, these Democrats, I mean, I've seen so many comments on different channels from different videos, different people leaving comments. One comment that stands out a lot, okay, I see it over and over and over again, and it's the comment that whatever the Democrats touch turns to shit. I've seen that comment, I mean, I can't even count how many times. It's got to be hundreds, if not thousands, from so many different videos and stuff, of people leaving comments because they're so disgusted with the Democrats, how they run their side, that it's true. Whatever the Democrats touch turns to shit. But let's continue.
Bongino, where you said none of these problems are new. I think just the list of those that I've just mentioned shows that this is not a new problem, but it's existed for quite a while. And with a $3 billion annual budget, I would think that we would start evaluating those mistakes to make those corrective actions. Would you agree with the things that I've listed, with the budget that is allocated, that there should be a much better provision of security for protectees than what you're seeing today?
Oh, there's zero dispute about this. You know, Mr. Prince's company had accountability. People fire him and find a new company if he lost a protectee. You can't fire the Secret Service. 18 U.S.C. 3056, they're obligated to protect him. The Secret Service has a culture problem, Congressman. I was an instructor in our training academy in Beltsville, Maryland for 3 years. I ran operations over there, taught investigations over there, spent a little time in the Control Tactics Unit. Again, I was there for 3 years. Unfortunately, I can't count on one hand. I would need probably two and toes as well to count how many agents who could not meet even basic protective functioning skills and criminal investigative skills.
Now, I want everybody to pay attention to what he says next, because this goes to show you how whoever's in power, okay, they either want to do the job right or they just don't give a damn. Okay? Pay attention to what he says. Check this out. I mean, this blew my mind, in all honesty. And the reason why I bring this up is because, again, I probably should have, I mean, I wasn't paying attention, but sometime last year or the year before, okay, there was a, what was it? It was a news clipping. And it was something to do with Biden and Harris, and they were doing some speaking, I don't know what the hell it was. I forgot. But anyway, you see that they were surrounding, there was some Secret Service. But something stood out to me, and I couldn't put my finger on it, even though I'm staring right at it, and I'm just like, something here doesn't look right with the Secret Service. But then listening to what Dan Bongino says right here, it triggered last night me remembering. Don't ask me if I can find that video. I'll try. It's going to be very hard, but I'll explain what it was after you hear what Dan Bongino has to say.
But who met other criteria completely irrelevant to job performance, who were pushed.
Let me go back just a little bit.
Over there, spent a little time in the Control Tactics Unit. Was there for 3 years. Unfortunately, I can't count on one hand. I would need probably two and toes as well to count how many agents who could not meet even basic protective functioning skills and criminal investigative skills, but who met other criteria completely irrelevant to job performance, who were pushed through and told with a wink and a nod, this woman or man needs to graduate. Well, why? They're clearly incompetent. Every instructor who's encountered this person has said this person's incompetent, to the point where in judgment drills, they're killing the protectee in the judgment drills. That's kind of not what we do. You're not supposed to shoot the protectee yourself in a simunition drill. And you would say things, you would hear things, from special agents in charge, and I encourage you all to look into this, of how the training center works and how they graduate students, where they would say, well, that person files a lot of complaints.
Unreal.
Like EEO complaints. Okay, well, are they real? That sounds serious. Sounds like a serious thing to me. I take that stuff seriously. And they would say, well, they file them enough that it's become a nuisance and they're not really legitimate, but because this person files a lot of complaints, we need to graduate them. Some of those people now, matter of fact, not just a few, but many, are out on protective assignments now. And again, this
So what
is
you're
not...
saying is that DE...
Okay, let me stop it real quick. I'll go back just a little bit, just so we can continue. So basically what he's saying is that, now mind you, Dan Bongino never did detail for Donald Trump. He did it for Obama, for Clinton, and for Bush. Okay? Probably three of the worst presidents this country's ever had. Okay? So he's basically talking about when he was on the force back then, of how they were doing things. Now, I'm not saying that it didn't happen under Trump, but knowing Trump, I highly doubt that he will put up for stuff like that. Just hiring somebody because they keep sending letters of complaints like, why don't you hire me? Why? Me. So basically, they're DEI hires, okay? When I heard him say that last night, it triggered the video that I saw, like I said, last year or a year and a half ago. This was way before I had the channel, where it was showing Biden with Harris, I believe it was, and other politicians. They were having some, I forgot what it was. Everybody was smiling, taking pictures. And what I seen that looked kind of strange was that standing next to Biden, or if I remember correctly, there was this tall, skinny black kid. I mean, the kid had to be freaking like 6'7". And I thought that what it was, and I'm not trying to, insult anybody, right? But I thought that they were doing some kind of what do you call it? A fundraiser or something like that, and they had celebrities there, basketball players, whatever the case is. So what stuck out to me was the way that kid was dressed. Okay? And then it came about that they pointed out that kid was Secret Service. Now he's standing there, he's smiling, he's shaking hands, and it was the suit that he had on, and I remember looking at it like, wait a minute, this kid is Secret Service? Like, are you kidding me? Like, I mean, when you look at Secret Service, they're standing there, they got a very sullen look on their face, they're stern, no smiles, nothing. You would think that this kid was there getting an award. That's how happy he was. And I remember thinking to myself, like, why would anybody hire somebody like him? he's not going to scare anybody away. Okay? I mean, if anybody was to go and attack whoever he was trying to protect, Joe Biden, whoever, I can see this kid running away from the fight. Never mind jumping on top and trying to protect anybody. Okay? And let me tell you something. Right after that, right after me seeing that, I try to watch a lot more, news footage and stuff like that as time went on, just to see, because when Donald Trump was president, there was this one Secret Service agent that we would see constantly all the time. Okay? And I always thought that maybe he was in charge of the detail for Donald Trump. So I figured, let me see if the same, full suit for Biden and his Secret Service detail. Never seen that kid again. And believe me, that kid would not be hard to miss. That's how tall this kid was. Tall and lanky. So listening to what Dan Bongino said, it triggered me last night to remember that, and I was like, wow, they just hire anybody to do any job, and they don't care if they're qualified or not. They just do it because in their eyes, that is the right thing to do. It's about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, all that leftist bullshit. Okay? And on top of that, to have such a biased, hateful leftist agenda running through these agencies where they denied Donald Trump, okay, and Robert F. Kennedy adequate protection. Then not only did it almost get Donald Trump killed, it got an innocent man killed. Well, let's continue.
They file them enough that it's become a nuisance, and they're not really legitimate, but because this person files a lot of complaints, we need to graduate them. Some of those people now, matter of fact, not just a few, but many, are out on protective assignments now. And again, this
so
is
what
not...
you're saying is that DEI plays a major role, not meritocracy, with regards to the current culture that has been fostered.
No, the major role. The Secret Service right now is dominated by DEI. It's not a role. It's the, you ask agents on the president.
I think everyone's heard me say before, DEI.
Did you hear that? DEI doesn't play a role. It plays the major role in this. I mean, that is insane, people. That is insane. That's like saying, you know what? Because, and I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm not trying to insult what kind of job you do, whatever the case is. Okay? But damn it, that's like saying, you know what? We're going to go, okay, and we're going to have a job for them. Now we're going to have 1,000 janitor jobs, okay, at the airport, and we're going to have 100 pilot job openings at the airport. And because you cannot find the pilot that fits your, I guess you could say, criteria, they'll go and let whatever janitor with no experience go and fill out an application to be a pilot. I mean, that's as plain as I can put it. It's insane to even for it to even be a damn thought to say, you know what, we need to hire because of optics. Man, fuck optics. You either know how to do the job or you don't. And that's it. You either qualify because you know how to do the job or you don't. That's it. This is insane, but let's continue.
Equals DIE. You know, DEI stands for didn't earn it, and
Well,
we
it
need to
did
be
for
very
Corey
cautious in how we
So,
do this.
ask his family.
Correct. I just want to move on briefly with the time. Mr. Schaefer, I just need you to kind of confirm the no's, and when I say confirm the no's, you'll understand.
And I like, I'm not going to try to go back, but I like what he said, how he feels about DEI. It really stands for didn't earn it. And people may find that offensive and all that, anybody that's into DEI, but it's the damn truth. You didn't earn it. Okay? And to tell you the truth, I don't see how anybody, okay, would want such a dangerous job, in my opinion. Why would you put yourself in a position for this job? You're never going to get enough clout, okay? You're never going to get enough props if you mess up on this job. One time, it doesn't matter what you do 100 times before then, all it takes is one slip up, and that your whole resume goes out the fucking window. Why would anybody want to put themselves in that position? Why would anybody want to put somebody in a position like that? Unless it's just one thing. You don't care.
Didn't take the communication platform that was given by local forces, correct?
That's correct.
Didn't take the surveillance drone offered by local forces, is that correct?
That is correct.
Didn't show up for the morning briefing to ensure that last-minute planning could be accounted for.
That is correct.
Didn't take any necessary measures to talk to the Kubota dealer, who was 400 yards away, to the 12 o'clock direct line of sight, to even see whether or not they could gain access to that rooftop or talk to the owner.
That is correct.
Wow.
Did not access the water tower, which has the highest vantage point, and provide oversight that would have also looked at the AGR building.
That is correct.
You know, I'm looking at all this and I'm noting a lot of no's.
I'm gonna stop it real quick again. I'm sorry, people. I mean, this is just, I'm telling you, when I said that I watched the rest of this and all this information came out, it's like, why aren't these three men in front of every single freaking senator from all across the United States, Hawaii included, sitting down listening to these three men talk, listening to this information? Okay, I'm gonna run it. But when he said about the water tower, there's video out there where, and it's only on a couple of channels. Now I'm not saying that it's fake, because clearly I do see it myself, but some of the camera angles of people in the crowd that have their phones on and they're recording, you see somebody on the top, on the way top of the water tower, okay? And as the shooting starts, like that black shadow looks like it goes behind. There's like a point or something on top of the top of the water tower. So you see like a black shadow, then the shooting starts, and then you see like that black shadow go behind whatever that object is on top of the water tower. I'm going to digress on that. That's a different rabbit hole to go down. But for him to come out and say that, you know, why weren't all these access points covered? Were they given the opportunity? Yes. And was it all denied? And his answer to all this is yes, they denied all that. They, meaning whoever was in charge of Secret Service. But let's continue.
Of things that didn't happen. And unfortunately, because we've allowed this to go on for weeks and weeks, we're now going to be faced with the fact that they're going to be memorializing all these documents to reflect July 9, July 10, July 11, dotting I's, crossing T's that wasn't actually going forward. Now, I want to ask you something, Mr. Prince, because you know this all too well about counterterrorism operations. We know for a fact that we have an open border with roughly 10 million people that's come across. We know that cartels are cheering on President Joe Biden as the employee of the month every single month. When you think about 2018, we get $500 million in revenue from cartel to now $13+ billion in revenue. If you knew a president was coming in that would put things like...
I'm going to cut it again right there, okay, people? I don't know if anybody like really, if you've heard this, and I watch a lot of videos when I get the chance. There's a lot of information out there that a lot of people are not talking about. As it stands, and this was from last year, okay? But supposedly, the human trafficking business was supposed to surpass the drug business worldwide. Okay? In other words, if the drug business was, let's just say, making $1 billion worldwide, human trafficking surpassed it by 100 billion. It's like the new biggest thing, okay, that people in the underground are taking part of. Is just all evil blood money. Just so people can understand that. It's insane, but let's continue.
Like Romania and Mexico back in place, secure our borders and cut your revenue. You have the training, you have the assets, you have the revenue. Would you deem that person as a threat and want to take that individual out?
It's a very simple answer, because you can see what they did in the last Mexican election that just happened a few months ago. They killed 27 conservative candidates, assassinated
Sheesh.
while campaigning.
And noting that you had
27.
the successful counterterrorism operation that eliminated the shadow master Qasem Soleimani of Quds Force, as well as for Abu Mahdi al-Mohandes, who led the Iranian proxy militias of Iraq. Would you deem that as them declaring a fatwa to increase your threat profile as an individual protectee?
Certainly the Iranians would see it as a risk worth taking.
Okay, I'm glad he said that. Two things real quick. Excuse me. I didn't hear about 27 conservative political people being murdered, taken out in Mexico. That goes to show you the chaos that's going on, of how a certain group is trying to maintain power. That's number one. Number two, everything there's been news about the Iranians, and I did a video on it not too long ago. Word coming out that the Iranians have a beef to pick with Trump, and that they might be behind, that they try to send somebody that was going to take out Trump before that, but this kid Crooks wind up, doing what he did. I think what he's trying to say here when he asked the question, and the answer was that he doesn't think that Iran would even try something like that, okay? Because they know that the repercussions will be way worse than what they would expect. And in all honesty, if I really had to put my opinion on it, I would have to agree. I can't, and I'm not trying to back up Iran or anything like that. I can't see, with everything that Iran is going through, especially with a lot of the people in their country right now, that they're trying to revolt. Is like a civil war where they're trying to, get a democratic system going and getting rid of all the mullahs and all that. I cannot see them wanting to take a chance to say, you know what, we're dealing with all this bullshit on our side. Let's just go send somebody to go take out Donald Trump. Especially knowing that you have a government, okay, that's in power right now that is totally two-faced. You see what I'm saying? If anybody can read between the lines, but let's continue.
And you also note that a question that needs to be asked of the FBI is that on July 12th, a 46-year-old Pakistani male named Burchan was actually captured, who had also plotted assassination against President Donald J. Trump and 35 elected officials. The question is how did you think an individual who's on a terrorist watch list, landed in Houston, Texas, was questioned by the FBI, and I would love to hear his answers because they must have been spectacular, and then released, noting that this individual flew from Pakistan to Iran for 4 days prior to this. Would you note that as very questionable?
Again, you can put him in the long list of other people that don't belong here, that our federal government is failing to do their job.
Thank you. With that, I have run out of my time. I will now hand it over to the Honorable Chip Roy for 10 minutes.
Here we go.
I thank my friend from Florida, Mr. Mills.
And let me just throw my 2 cents into that. What did he say it was? 35, okay, people on the terrorist watch list that have made their way into the United States and have been let loose. I cannot understand for the life of me, okay, how anybody could stand by the Democrats if they know this information and say, you know what, regardless of that, we still got to keep them in power. And the Democrats are the first ones, okay, to talk about women's rights, helping people out, securing people, making sure everybody's safe. And once again, that's where that phrase comes in. Whatever the Democrats touch turns to shit. They let it turn to shit. Why? Oh, why would you let people go that you know that if they're on the terrorist watch list, why would you let them go? But meanwhile, you spent so much money and resources, okay, doing facial recognition of people that were in the crowd at the Capitol on January 6th. They weren't anywhere near the Capitol, they were just in the crowd, and you were able to track them to their homes and arrest them, and they're still in the gulags of Washington, D.C. But yet you go and you let loose 35 suspected terrorists that are on a watch list.
My colleagues here, I thank you gentlemen for testifying here today. And I'd ask my staff, they'd put the map up here on the board. And if you would please, the technology folks, would you please play the shooter on roof behind President Trump angle video. And as we get this queued up and we start to play it, I'm gonna ask you some questions. I'm gonna start with you, Mr. Bongino. Trying through the question that I'm wrestling with, a lot of Americans are wrestling with, which is whether or not the failures here that we're all observing. Everybody agrees there was failure, almost catastrophic failure, and certainly catastrophic for Mr. Comparator and his family. But was there more? Was there willful blindness here? So if you could cue up the video, that'd be great. They've got that queued up. If they don't, then I'm just going to go ahead and proceed.
Great gentlemen. So we're going to bring him up for. Can we bring him up for a couple of minutes? You get ready, McCormick. You get ready. The world will see a vibrant republic.
Okay, now, if you look at the video, there's a red circle up here. Let me see if I can go back just a little bit, in case nobody's seen it. I'll try to stop
His
it.
family. But was there more? Was there willful blindness here? So if you could cue up the video, that'd be great. They've got that queued up. If they don't, then I'm just going to go ahead and proceed.
Great gentlemen. So we're going to bring him up for. Can we bring him up for a couple of minutes? You get ready, McCormick. You get ready.
Okay, that's Donald Trump. I believe that red circle there in a couple of videos they were saying, that's Crook, or whatever his name was. I believe that's him, or that's the sniper team. But the opening of the angle is just so wide open. It's like there should have been so much more security on all those roofs. Okay? And then the Secret Service, that woman, what's her name, Cheadle or something like that, saying that they didn't have people on certain roofs because the roofs were too pitched. But they were able to go up there, okay? After Crooks was shot dead, they got his body down. They show people up there with a water hose, just cleaning everything off, not worried about slipping, nothing like that. Where they even had Secret Service go up there when they had to investigate the scene. It's like they're all standing up. Nobody's standing on an angle. Nobody's slipping. Nothing. It's like, you mean to tell me that this wasn't a priority? In their eyes, no, it wasn't.
The world will see a vibrant republic.
See beyond the president, you can see the shooter moving across the room.
There you go. So
Now,
that's who it was.
I look at this as someone who is a prosecutor, who worked in the U.S. Attorney's Office, who worked in the Attorney General's office, not as someone who was a sniper like Mr. Mills or Mr. Crane, working in the Secret Service. But to be very clear, the perimeter, the building he shot from is outside of the perimeter. And the video we see, we can see him clearly just a mere 130 yards away. So here's the setup that I want to ask. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Bongino. Do you believe that you can just chalk up to mere incompetence that the Secret Service did not attend the 9 o'clock meeting for scheduling purposes? They literally just didn't attend. Can you chalk up, and just, I'm going to go down the list and just jump in. Can you chalk up to mere incompetence the conversations about the communications that we talked about before, where you didn't have a body present and they were using the cell phones, and they did not retrieve the radios, as Mr. Higgins has reported? Can you chalk it up to mere incompetence that they identified Crooks about an hour ahead of time, and that the President Trump, was never removed from the stage? They didn't delay, they didn't hold him back, they didn't remove him from the potential danger. That the perimeter did not include the buildings around over here, and to the extent, should there have been a perimeter that was farther out, and to the extent that the perimeter wasn't farther out, that they at least make sure the building wasn't covered. Is that just incompetence? Is it just incompetence that there was no drone being flown and the drone was turned down by the Secret Service? Was it just incompetence?
And it's funny that when he says about the drone, because I thought about the same thing. I thought that, you know, whenever there's an outside rally, that there's always drones, you know, just in case. So, you know, I mean, it's just a given, especially in this day and age of technology. You know, you want to make sure that you're seeing who's coming. I mean, for all you know, even though you're having like a rally and you got cops, you know, and all your Secret Service and all that, you know, checking, you know, surrounding a certain area, you probably want a drone in the air just watching, making sure that there's not, you know, a whole band of criminals, you know, a mile away coming all balls out, you know, in trucks and shit like that. And it's funny that they didn't do that here. You know, I mean, I've been to different parts of Florida to go fishing, and on a lot of these beaches where there's boardwalks, well, a lot of the beaches, they always have their police station. They put drones up in the air to scour the beaches and the boardwalks throughout the day. So like that, they get a better view from above because there's so many people. And this is just people having a good time, you know? And they do that all day long. You'll see them. You look up, you'll see drones, and they're doing that. And people say, oh, I don't like that. It's infringing on our privacy. No, it's not. They're trying to make sure that even though they got some people on the ground, all they can see is eye level, height level. Okay? Now they're watching from up top to see, just in case there's a problem, somebody disappears in the crowd, the drone will catch them. Why there was no drones, okay, at this rally? Why Secret Service? You know, I'm not even going to ask why they didn't do this. We pretty much are getting the picture of why. Okay? I mean, like I always say, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this one out. But let's continue.
The shooter had a drone, as the FBI director testified in front of the House Judiciary Committee, that he literally had flying within a couple hundred feet of the stage the same day, mere hours before the shooting.
Yeah, he had a drone.
Just incompetence, what we're hearing now about the whistleblowers saying that there were no canines? Was it just incompetence that there wasn't sufficient policing along the security border? Was it just incompetence that there was allegedly an abandoning of the post due to heat? That there was supposed to be someone on top of the roof and that they didn't get on the roof because it was too hot? Is it just incompetence that there was additional security requests turned down according to the memos that we saw out of Senator Josh Hawley, and encouraging agents not to request additional security requests? And was it just incompetence what we saw with respect to the police body footage, which I'll play here in just a second if we could cue up the police body footage video, where you've got the local police talking about what they said to the Secret Service. If y'all could play that video real quick, and then I want you to respond.
Well, body's a good, that's a good word. I told them they need to post the guy over here. I told them that the Secret Service. I told them that Tuesday. I told them to post guys over here. I have no contact with the inside. What? No, we're inside. Alpha 1, Bravo 1. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Thank you all. Mr. Bongino.
And just quickly, I apologize. Before I said there was 4 men, it's actually 5. I always forget that this guy was sitting there. He didn't speak much, but he did when he asked questions. They were solid questions. But I don't remember if I put out video footage of this that it came out. This was right after the shooting, and that was a cop that was complaining, okay, that he had told Secret Service and them, we need somebody on this roof, okay, days prior, and obviously they didn't. And if he brought it up, he's just a regular cop that brought it up and said, listen, we know this neighborhood, we know this area, we think that you should have people here, and we should have people here. This is why I'm saying this sounds more like a damn inside job. Okay? I don't care what anybody says. Nobody can look at this, especially when somebody in law enforcement came out and said, I told the other law enforcement agency we need somebody on this roof. The one fucking roof that he talked about, that he brought it up to some other people saying we need somebody up here, was not covered. The one roof was not covered, and that's where Crooks was able to get on and take his shot, and somebody got killed.
I told them to put
Can you
guys over here.
respond to that? My question about can you respond to that?
Sure.
Can you respond to that question? Because that's what the American people want to know.
Congressman, if you had just ended with your first statement and said, well, we may have screwed up the perimeter, you could maybe attribute it to ignorance. Layered incompetence always means intent, correct? So I'll give you an example. You're in a mall parking lot, it's 97 degrees, and you leave a kid in there and you close the door. Did they intend to kill the kid? Probably not. But how stupid do you have to be to do that? So
Exactly.
in Secret Service training, you're basically taught a ring-based system, but don't think of it as rings. Think of it as a three-dimensional ring, like a bubble with rings. So you got this circle, but it's three-dimensional above and below. In that outer ring, again, this is Secret Service 101, Charlie Brown encyclopedia stuff. This isn't like advanced level PDT, protective detail training. In that outer ring, you have police officers. That outer ring is out to about 1,000 yards, which is about what a really technically proficient sniper can hit. Why was the perimeter set? Again, absolute total incompetence. But then factor in the other things, and I just want to add a few more. How is it that a counter surveillance unit whose actual job is to detect, to counter surveillance, that's what they do. They're the best at what they do. We asked the question during the conversation we had earlier. How is it that they missed this guy roaming around when the police officers, clearly using their good law enforcement instincts, said we've got a problem? The answer is because they weren't there. Is that incompetence, or is that shutting the door in 97 degrees with your kid there going, I just didn't know? How did you not have a roof line 130 yards away secured when you're taught day one in Secret Service training that the effective range of a really quality sniper is out to 1,000 yards?
Did you hear that? So that means that they should have had a perimeter outdoors where Trump was at, that rally. It should have been 1,000-yard perimeter around of protection. And yet Crooks was able to walk around, it's on video, in front of the building, on the ground, set up a drone to fly around, was able to go and supposedly buy a ladder that he bought the day before, something like that, bring it, okay, that they say he bought it at Home Depot, bring it to that area, prop it up against the building, climb up the building, where there's another video of a guy saying that he was screaming at police, but they were too far away, and at Secret Service, because they seen Crooks climbing up the ladder, and he was fidgeting with the rifle because he couldn't hold on to the rifle and all that, and he's banging on everything, trying to climb up the ladder. So you have civilians on the ground trying to get the attention of Secret Service. All this is going on, and at one time, the Secret Service shut it all down and say, we have too many commotions going on right now. We need to shut this down, send everybody out, and find out what the hell's going on. Nobody thought of that. Unbelievable. But let's continue.
How did you not have a drone? That not only did you not have a drone, again, this is where we get to the shutting the door in 97 degrees and pretending you didn't know. It was offered. They offered you a drone. It's unforgivable. And just think of the rings quickly, and I'll wrap this up. So in the outer ring, you have police officers, you have counter surveillance, and you have a protective intelligence team. Protective intelligence team is trained to go and find threats. They miss them. There's no counter surveillance team. The cops catch it, but because the comms break down, they miss it. In that middle perimeter, you have what they call post standers. Post standers they're not DTD agents. They're field office agents. They're not Donald Trump detail agents. Those guys were not even Secret Service. They were HSI, most of them, who were great guys and were fantastic. But that's not what they do. If you grab me as a former Secret Service guy and said, hey, Dan, can you go do a Homeland Security investigation on this? No, that's not what I learned. We are training Secret Service agents to do protection so we don't have to use other entities that don't do protection. So that's the middle perimeter. So that breaks down. The inner perimeter, as you just saw, and I'm glad you played that video, envision that as what we would call the shift, the body guys, right? He's got a shift around them and supervisors. Everyone missed that guy crawling across the roof when he defeated the external, the middle, and the internal perimeter?
Yeah. This is why I say this was an inside job. There is no way that kid was smart enough to get through 3 layers of security and get a shot off. Or a couple of shots, actually. Because now that I believe in this video, the guy at the end with the red tie, he says, because I believe they asked him how many shots altogether were shot, and I believe he said that Crooks got 8 shots off, and the snipers got 2. They don't know if both bullets killed him or the first one and the second one was just, hit him also, but it was the first one. But they need to figure all this out, how many shots were taken, because they got to do forensics on all the bullets. Which, by the way, if I'm correct, and maybe it's come out, I don't know. Supposedly, there hasn't even been forensics on any what they call it, ballistics done. Okay, because in a situation like this, you have to know who took shots, how many shots were fired, So like that, if everybody accounts for all their ammo and says, okay, this is what we got, but now there's an extra 30 rounds that we found out, then who shot those? In other words, to find out, was there somebody else? So there's a lot of moving parts in this. Like I said, and these three guys are giving out so much information and putting their security expertise in all this. Like I said, I cannot believe, where are all the Republicans? Never mind the Democrats. Where are all the Republicans? Every single fucking one. Okay? In Capitol Hill. Okay? Wanting a major investigation about this. Well, let's continue.
You shut the door in 97 degrees. I'm sorry. Layered intent, layered incompetence like that is absolutely intent.
You heard that? Layered incompetence like that is absolutely intent, meaning they wanted this to happen. They let it happen. That right there, okay, that right there is coming from a Secret Service agent that protected Clinton, Bush, and Obama. Even though everybody knows that he is a diehard Trump supporter, but his job was protecting three of the worst presidents of the United States and did his job well. He is saying, okay, that layered incompetence was intent. Take it for what you will, people.
I've got another question on that, but I just want to ask you, Mr. Prince, real quick. Do you have any a relatively short comment on that? Can you dismiss all of this as sheer incompetence?
The question I want to have answered is, if other counter sniper agents, officers, saw any person laying in a prone position with a rifle pointed at the President of the United States, do they have authorization to take a shot immediately, or do they have to get permission? Because if the Secret Service wasn't there and they were laying at a stakeout for a bank robbery, would they have to get permission if they saw means and intent to murder someone?
Exactly.
I don't understand why any of the other officers didn't engage sooner.
Mr. Schaefer, do you have
Wow.
a comment on that in terms of the engagement and the rules of engagement that were in place?
Yeah, absolutely. I can clarify that a little bit. So as a law enforcement sniper, we have a lot of responsibilities and inherited flexibility. One of those flexible procedures or statuses that we incur is known as compromised authority. Compromised authority in the law enforcement sense basically lays out the requirements for a deadly force response. And in that point in time, based on all the prerequisites that were identified and all the checks in the boxes that were made, Mr. Crook sort of met that level or that threshold.
Unreal.
I'll
Unreal.
let some of the experts on that subject follow up on that. I think there's probably some more follow up there. I just want to ask one last question, my last minute time, Mr. Bongino. We talked about this before. I have seen credible information, the extent to which the shooter had significant explosives that were sophisticated beyond that you would expect some 20-year-old just to put together, and that he had sophisticated detonation devices on his person, or a sophisticated detonation device, and importantly that his digital footprint is completely MIA, that his digital footprint is missing.
Yep.
And that how can a 20-year-old in today's time have no digital footprint? So do you have any thoughts on that, any comments on that? And that'll be my last question.
Well, 4 years of doing protective intelligence investigations with the Secret Service interviewed probably hundreds of people who have credibly threatened our protectees. I've never seen anything like it. If you would have told me it was a 60-year-old guy who lived most of his life without a computer and for the last 10 years had been planning this, hard to believe but digestible. You're telling me a 20-year-old kid who's grown up in the digital era figured this out when he was, 13? To never get an online presence? We've seen nothing. Nothing. We're now 6 weeks in. There's not a Facebook photo. You know, it's incredible. We know every single thing about these shooting incidents when there's a political narrative to be had by the media and the other side. We do. You know who the high school girlfriend was. Sadly, you know everything about these people. We know nothing about this guy. And sophisticated explosives, we have this massive law enforcement bureaucracy No one's got him with an online search history in a library saying, how do I build this? He's 20 years old.
Insane.
It just defies logic. I can tell you, again, 4 years doing these exact investigations, never ever seen or heard anything like this in my life.
Thank you so much. We're now going to go into our second round of questioning. And again, I appreciate the panel and all that you guys have been providing in regards to expertise and on-ground truth realities.
Okay, and I'll end it there because there's still about 40 minutes to go, something like that. And this video, as long as it is, looks like I'm going to have to do a third one. Hopefully I can do it tomorrow. But there you have it, folks. I mean, the more you listen to this, like I said, why there isn't a major congressional hearing to find out what's going on is beyond me. And all it does is feed the narrative that people on the inside played a part, either that or they're trying to hide something. Maybe it was somebody on the outside that that the government is trying to investigate. You can look at this in so many different ways, okay? But it boils down to just one thing. How come everybody is not together, left and right, wanting to find out answers of this? Okay? Find out how in the world did a 20-year-old kid with no social media footprint, okay, not to mention that supposedly he had, and one of my subscribers brought it up, that supposedly he had 3 encrypted overseas bank accounts, and I believe this was brought up again. Like I said, I'm gonna have to make another video on this, okay? And I don't think they said the amount, but my subscriber that left the comment, I believe he said it was like 1.2 million or something like that, or I heard it somewhere else. But let's just say that is the case. First of all, what 20-year-old kid, okay, in America has an encrypted bank account overseas? That's not normal. Never mind fucking 3 of them. Okay, if it is the case, if it's true. And if he did, how much money? Where was he getting the money from? I mean, so many questions that it makes you wonder, was this kid even like this school student, okay, that decided to do all this, or was this kid planted years ago, okay, to act this out? But then you have to question that, like, well, wait, they would have never known years ago that Trump would have had a rally like this. And that's understandable. That you have to be like, okay, no, that doesn't make any sense. Obviously it doesn't. But it's almost as if this kid, like, they either picked him up from somewhere and dropped him off, or he just came in through some damn wormhole, okay, and made himself present in front of everybody, right before all this happened. I mean, there's so many just weird and strange things about this whole situation that, like I said, I don't understand how Congress, everybody on both sides, is not together saying, this does not look right. That there's no more hiding it. I mean, it's going to get to the point that it's like, forget about pointing the finger and who messed up on security detail. This goes way beyond that now. Who was this kid? Who trained him? Where did he get the money from? He has no social media footprint. What about his parents? I mean, yeah, there are videos out there of him in school, people taking videos, of him and stuff like that. But it's just not enough. It's like, one would think that they took this kid and they made him a damn Manchurian candidate. Okay? And then for the body to be released without the coroner knowing, and the body being released to be cremated when a toxicology report and stuff like that was not even done, an autopsy, none of that. I don't know, people. I'm sorry. I'm calling it for what I see. Like, many other people have seen it. To me, in my opinion, and I may be wrong. okay. You know what I mean? I just I'm sorry. This stinks to high heaven. Okay? It stinks to high heaven, and I pray to God, the Lord Jesus Christ, that He watches over Dan Bongino and these two other men, and whichever whistleblowers come out, and that justice will be served, that God will put His hand on everybody and keep evil at bay, and that the truth will come out, and that whoever is responsible, if it was just that kid, then fine. But if there was any other actors, that God would deal with them accordingly. Because this is not something to play around with, okay? This is not what a civil society should be dealing with, okay? I mean, you heard Dan Bongino. In Mexico, they killed, what, 27 political officials, conservative officials? 27. Is that what he said, 25 or 27? It doesn't matter how many, it's just that, look at what's going on there. Is that what's expected to be happening here, and people are supposed to leave it and be nonchalant about it as if, oh, it was just yesterday's news? I don't know, man. I really don't know. But anyway, that's what I got for you. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, pass the channel around. Give it a thumbs up. I'm almost at that threshold of being monetized, so please watch as much content as you can, pass it around, bring people aboard, okay, help this channel grow and this movement grow. And if you can help support the channel, there's a link in my description to my Cash App and my merch store. Also, I'm leaving the links again to this video if you want to watch it in its entirety, and links to my friend Josie, her Gifts and Go campaign, and to Loza Alexander's GoFundMe campaign if you can help them out. So remember, people, stay vigilant, keep praying for each other, keep praying for the women and the children, keep praying for this country, pray for your enemies, and pray for Donald Trump, and don't forget to vote. Peace.